Come here a minute. I want to show you something before you make a mistake I see people make every week. That right there is a battery somebody threw in the trash. A good deep cycle battery, the kind that costs real money. And it is sitting in the burn pile like a busted jar. The fellow who tossed it told me it was dead. Wouldn't hold a charge, he said. So he drove to town, laid down better than $200 for a new one, and hauled this old one out to throw away. And the plain truth is, there was likely nothing wrong with it that a cup of water and a little patience couldn't fix. I am Elias Yodar. I farm a piece of ground here in Lancaster County that my family has worked since we came over from the Palatinate back in 1838. And I want to tell you something about batteries that the man at the store has no reason to ever tell you, because there is no money in it for anybody but you. Most batteries that get thrown away are not dead. They are thirsty. They are dirty. They have been left to sit until they go sour. And nearly every one of those three things is something you did without knowing you did it. Which means it is something you can stop doing. That is the whole of it. You are not going to learn a magic trick today. You are going to learn how to keep a thing alive the way my grandfather kept a horse alive by tending it a little before it needs it, instead of a lot after. Now, let me be straight with you right at the start, because I would rather lose your trust in the first minute than the last. I gathered the whole of this into a book over at eliasadar.com. The book is the long version with the charts and the numbers written down so you are not squinting at a screen out in the shop. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. So, let us talk about what a battery actually is in plain words. Because if you understand that, the rest follows on its own. Inside that black case, there are plates, lead plates, standing up in rows, sitting in a bath. That bath is what they call the electrolyte, and it is nothing more than water mixed with acid. When you draw power out of the battery and put power back in by charging it, a small piece of that water goes off into the air as gas, not the acid. The acid stays, only the water leaves. My grandfather would have understood that in a heartbeat, because it is the same as a kettle on the stove. Boil a pot of salted water long enough, and the water goes up as steam, and the salt stays behind thicker and thicker in what is left. A battery is the same. The water goes up into the air a little at a time, and the acid stays, and it gets stronger and meaner than it was ever meant to be. Now, here is where the plates come in. Those plates need to sit under the bath, covered, bathed, the whole of them. When the water level drops low enough that the top of the plates pokes up into the air, that part of the plate is done working. Worse than that, the part sticking up out of the water starts to dry and harden and ruin, and it does not come back. So, a battery that runs low on water is not just weak. It is dying from the top down an inch at a time, and every day you leave it that way is a day you cannot get back. That is the first thing that kills a good battery, and it is the easiest thing in the world to prevent. You give it water, not just any water. And here is where I have to stop you before you go grab the hose, because this matters. You do not use the water from your tap. You do not use rainwater from your barrel. And I say that as a man who catches every drop of rain he can and loves doing it. Tap water and well water and rainwater all carry minerals in them. Iron, lime, whatever your ground gives you. Those minerals are fine for you and me and the tomatoes, but inside a battery they settle onto the plates and choke them like lime, building up inside an old pipe until the water can barely get through. Once that scale is on the plates, it does not come off. So you use distilled water, only distilled water, the kind you buy in a jug at the store for about $1, or the kind you catch off a still if you have one. Distilled water has had all the minerals cooked out of it. So there is nothing in it to leave behind, nothing to choke the plates, just clean water to bring the bath back up to where it belongs. Let me walk you through it the way I would show my own boy in the shop, because there is a right order to it and the order keeps you safe. First, and I mean this, you put something over your eyes. Safety glasses, the goggles, whatever you have, and an old long-sleeve shirt and a pair of gloves. That bath inside the battery is acid. And when it has been sitting and drying, it is a stronger acid than it started as. It does not care that you are careful. It will find your eye if you give it the chance. So you cover up first before you ever pop a cap. This is not me being an old woman about it. This is me having seen a burn that did not heal right. Cover your eyes. Second, you look at your battery and you find the caps on top. Most flooded batteries, the kind we are talking about, have caps you can twist or pry up, one over each cell. A 12-volt battery has 6 of them in a row. Some batteries are sealed and say right on them, "Do not open." If yours says that, you listen to it. And this method is not for that battery. But the good deep cycle batteries, the ones worth saving, the ones a man keeps for his solar and his fences and his shop, most of those you can open and tend. Third, before you add a thing, you look inside. Take a flashlight and look down into each cell. You are looking for the tops of the plates. If they are covered in liquid, good. That cell is not starved. If they are poking up dry into the air, that is a thirsty cell. And now you know. But here is the piece most folks get backward. So listen closely. You only add enough water right now to just barely cover those plates if they are sticking out. Just barely. You do not fill it up to the brim yet. Not yet. I will tell you why in a moment. Fourth, you charge the battery. Full charge all the way. And you do this in a space with air moving through it. A shop with the door cracked, a barn with the wind coming through, not a closed little closet. Because when a battery charges, it gives off a gas, and that gas will burn if enough of it gathers with a spark nearby. Out in open air, it is nothing. Trapped in a small room, it is a danger. So you charge it where the air moves. My grandfather did not have a battery charger, but he had the same sense about a lantern in a hoft, and it is the same sense. You give the fumes somewhere to go. Now, why did I tell you not to fill it up before charging? Because when a battery charges, the bath heats and swells and rises. If you filled to the top when it was cold and low, the charging would push it right over the edge, and acid would come bubbling up out of the caps and run down over everything. And that is both a mess and a hazard, and a waste of the very acid the battery needs to keep. So you only cover the plates first, charge it full, and then, and only then, you top it off the rest of the way. After the charge, with the battery full and settled, you bring the water level up to just below the bottom of the fill hole, not to the brim. Just below where the hole starts, so there is a little air left. Then you put the caps back on snug. That is watering a battery. That is the whole thing. $1 of distilled water, 10 minutes, and a battery that a man was ready to throw in the trash comes back to work for years more. Not made new. I will not tell you it is made new because that is a lie people sell, and I do not sell it. But brought back, given its water, kept alive. I remember the first time my grandfather showed me this, though we were not tending a battery that day. We were down at the spring house and he was showing me how the crock of butter kept cool sitting in the running water. And I asked him how he knew to do 100 small things like that, when to do them, how much. And he sat down what he was holding, and he said something I have carried my whole life. He said, "A thing does not fail all at once, boy. It tells you it is failing a little at a time long before it quits. The plow tells you with a spot of rust. The fence tells you with a loose staple. The trouble is not that these things break. The trouble is that a man stops looking, and then he calls it broken when really he just stopped tending it. That is the whole of what I am telling you about a battery. It has been telling you it was thirsty for months. The low water, the slow charge, the weak start on a cold morning. Those were not the battery failing. Those were the batteries asking. Most folks just did not know the language. Now you do. Now let me tell you about the second thing that kills batteries. And this one is quieter, because it does its work while you are not even looking. It kills them while they sit. A battery left to sit dead is a battery digging its own grave. When a battery runs all the way down and then just sits there empty for weeks and months, something happens on those plates. A kind of hard crust forms on them. The old-timers I learned from did not have the fancy word for it, but they knew the thing itself. They called it a battery going to sleep too deep to wake. That crust builds on the plates and hardens like a scale on the inside of a kettle. And the more it builds, the less of the plate can do its work, and the battery gets weaker and weaker until one day it truly will not come back. And the thing that causes it is simple: leaving it dead, leaving it sit empty. So the rule my grandfather would give you if he tended batteries is the same rule he gave for everything on the farm. You do not let a good thing sit idle and neglected. A plow left in the wet rusts. A horse left in the stall too long goes stiff and sour, and a battery left dead goes to sleep and does not wake. You keep it charged. If you have a battery you are not using through the winter, you do not leave it in the corner drained. You bring it up to a full charge and you check on it. And every so often through the cold months, you give it a charge again to keep it up. A battery that is kept full and warmish and tended will wait for you patiently for a year. A battery left dead in the cold will be ruined by spring. And that word, warmish, matters. So let me say it plain. Cold is hard on a battery, but freezing is worse. And a battery that has run low is in real danger of freezing. A full, healthy battery with its bath strong and proper can take a hard, cold night and be fine. But a battery that has run down where the bath has gone weak and watery, that battery can freeze solid like a jar of water left on the porch. And when it freezes, it can crack the case or buckle the plates, and then it is finished for good. So through the winter, you keep your batteries charged, which keeps the bath strong, which keeps them from freezing. You store them somewhere with the edge taken off the cold if you can. A cellar, a spot in the shop that does not drop below freezing. Not baking hot either, mind you, because heat is its own slow poison to a battery. Cool, but not freezing. The same spot you would keep your root vegetables more or less is a fair spot for a battery too. Now, the third thing, and this one you can see with your own eyes, which makes it the easiest of all to catch the terminals. The posts on top where the wires clamp on. You have seen it. That crusty blue-green fuzz that builds up on the posts of a neglected battery, or a white powdery crust. That crust is corrosion, and it is not just ugly. It is a thief. It gets in between the post and the clamp, and it fights the current. It is like trying to shake a man's hand through a thick wool mitten. The connection is there, but weak, muffled, half of it lost. A battery can be full and healthy and well-watered inside and still act half dead, simply because the current cannot get past that crust on the posts. Folks have thrown away good batteries over a problem that lived entirely on the outside that a rag and 5 minutes would have cured. Here is how you tend it. First, same as always, cover your eyes and put on your gloves because that crust is acid too, and you do not want it on your skin. Then, you take the clamps off the posts. And here is a nice old trick, and it uses a thing you likely have in the kitchen. Baking soda. Plain baking soda. The same box my wife keeps by the stove. You mix a spoonful of baking soda into a little cup of water until it is milky, and you brush that over the crusty posts. And you will see it foam and fizz and work. That is the baking soda neutralizing the acid in the corrosion, taking the bite out of it, turning that mean crust into something soft you can wipe away. Let it work a moment, then scrub the posts and the clamps with an old brush. A toothbrush is perfect until they come clean and shiny. Then, and this matters, you rinse the baking soda off with a little clean water, and you dry it all well with a rag because you do not want that baking soda water running down inside the cells. Once your posts are clean and dry and shining like a new penny, you do one last thing. You put a thin smear of grease on them, any decent grease, the kind you would put on a bearing or a hinge, just a thin coat over the clean posts before you clamp the wires back on. That grease seals the metal from the damp air, and damp air is what starts the corrosion in the first place. A greased post stays clean for a long, long time. My grandfather greased everything that could rust, every hinge and every hasp and every blade going into winter storage. And it is the same wisdom exactly. A little grease keeps the weather out. So there you have the three things. Water when it runs thirsty, charge so it never sits dead and never freezes, and clean greased posts so the power can get out. Do those three things and a battery serves you for years past, when other folks are throwing theirs away. Now, I want to be honest with you about something, because I would not be doing right by you if I let you walk away thinking every battery can be saved. They cannot. A battery whose plates have truly worn out, where the lead has shed off and settled into sludge in the bottom of the case, that battery is done, and no amount of water or charging brings it back. There is an end to every tool. What I am telling you is not how to raise the dead. It is how to keep a good battery from dying years before its time, which is what happens to most of them. The man who waters his battery and keeps it charged and tends its posts will get many good years out of it. The man who does none of those things will be back at the store in 2 years wondering why batteries do not last like they used to. They last fine. He just did not tend his. And let me say a word here about my own place so you understand where I am coming from, and I am not talking down to anyone. We do not take a wire from the public power company. We never have. But I am not against a battery, and I am not against catching power the honest way off my own roof from the sun that God sends down free every morning. In my community, we allow a modest bit of solar panels on the buildings charging a bank of batteries for the water pump, the fence, a light in the barn. The stricter orders among us do not, and I respect them for it. And I am not here to argue whose way is right. But I will tell you this. When your power comes from a bank of batteries you tend with your own 2 hands, you learn very fast to take care of them because there is no company to call when they fail. There is only you and your neglect, or you and your good habits. And that teaches a man to water his batteries. Now, who profits from you not knowing all this? And I want to be careful how I say it because I am not telling you there is a scheme, a room full of men plotting to sell you batteries. It is nothing so dramatic as that. It is quieter, and it is worse because it needs no plotting at all. The money simply runs one direction. Nobody makes a dime teaching you to water a battery for $1. Everybody makes $1 selling you a new battery for $200. So the knowledge of the cheap fix just quietly falls away. Not because anyone buried it, but because nobody had a reason to carry it forward. The man at the store is not lying to you when he sells you a new battery. He probably does not know the old one could have been saved either. The knowing just got lost, the way a path grows over when nobody walks it. Well, we are going to walk it again. Here is what I would ask of you. If you have a battery you are about to give up on, a garden tractor battery, a deep cycle from a camper or a boat, one of the batteries off a solar bank, before you throw it out, try this on it. Cover your eyes. Check the water. Give it distilled water to cover the plates. Charge it up full in the open air. Clean and grease the posts and see if it does not come back to life for you. And then come down to the comments and tell me. Tell me what kind of battery it was and how old and whether it took the charge again. I read them, and other folks read them too. And every man who reports back teaches the next one. That is how this knowledge gets carried forward again, one comment at a time. Now, I will not always be talking about batteries, so let me tell you what comes next, because it follows right on from this. So, many of you have asked me how our solar setup actually works out here. How a plain man with no wire from the power company keeps the lights on and the pump running. And that is a fair question, and it deserves a whole sitting of its own. So the next time we talk, I'm going to walk you through the whole of our modest little system. The panels, the bank of batteries you now know how to keep alive, the whole plain arrangement of it, from the sun coming down to the water coming up. It is simpler than you think, and it is more free than you would believe. So keep your eyes covered, keep your water distilled, keep your batteries charged and your posts clean, and do not throw away a good thing that only needed a little tending. The people who built this country with their hands knew that.